Elizabeth Craft Designs, and today I'll be teaching a tutorial on this. Introducing a brand new die. This is die number 1104, the Hanging Charm Pull Tab. These new products will be available in stores in January 2016. If you are a retailer coming to the CHA Mega Show January 9th through the 12th, 2016, please stop by the Elizabeth Craft Designs booth number 775. We will be making this card as a make and take on one of the days. You can see all the dies in the Hanging Charm Pull Tab. There are 8 of them. And then for today's card, I'm going to use 2 of the decorator dies out of die number 974, the Rectangle Pull Card. Let me start by cutting a couple pieces of soft finish cardstock in the 100-pound weight. I'm going to cut a small little rectangle, 1 3/4 by 1.5 inches, and then I'm going to cut a panel that's the size of an A2 card. So it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and that's what I'm going to use with my stencil for the card base. So I'll set that aside for now. Let me tell you about these pieces. I have a piece of black cardstock, 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, a piece of pink cardstock, 3 inches by 4 1/2, and then a piece of PhotoPlay patterned paper. It's 3 1/2 inches by 8 inches. And these 2 additional pieces I'm going to use on double-sided adhesive. So I've got a piece of black cardstock, 2 1/2 by 3 1/4, and a piece of watermelon cardstock that's 1 1/2 inches square. And for these 2 pieces, I'd like to put them against some double-sided adhesive before I do any die cutting. So I'll just line them up on my little 6x6 double-sided adhesive sheet, trim them around to just the cardstock, and save the additional adhesive. The PhotoPlay pattern paper I'm using is from their Family Ties collection, and from that strip I'm going to cut the card base and the little frame that come with the pull tab die set. You can use any die cutting machine that will accommodate a wafer thin die. Today I'm using a Sizzix Big Shot, but they will fit in a variety of machines. The little rectangles from inside the dies I won't use on today's project. I just need the card base itself and then the little frame that comes out of this piece here. For the pull tab itself, I'm going to cut that out of pink cardstock. So that's this piece here that looks like a T. And then while I'm in the business of cutting, I'm going to take that piece of black cardstock that has the double-sided adhesive on it and cut another one of those frames. And from the interior rectangle, because I'm not going to need it, that's a great place for me to get my little arrow die that came with the rectangle pull card. And you know what? I might as well fill up my platform. I'm going to cut a butterfly, but I'm going to flip that over and cut that down into the adhesive side so that I can glitter it. Make my sandwich, and I'll just roll that right through my machine. And let me just lightning fast get all of those pieces out of their respective dies. I'm going to create an inlaid greeting for inside my pull tab card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape that little rectangle from the rectangle pull card in place over the black cardstock, and then I'm going to create a white rectangle with a stamped greeting. So this is one of the new clear stamp sets. It's called What's Up. Just simple little 3x4 clear stamp set with some greetings that go great with the collections. Before I die cut the white one, I think I'll just go ahead and add one of the scraps of my double-sided adhesive to the back, and that way after I die cut it, it'll just be a sticker. It'll be super easy to inlay. Since it's an inlay, I'll use the same little rectangle die for both. So the first thing is to die cut it out of the black cardstock, and then I'll die cut that with that same die around that little What's Up greeting. That'll create the perfect size to fit down into that opening and create an inlaid greeting. For my hanging butterfly charm, I'm going to glitter it with the Peony Pink Silk Microfine Glitter. And since that has the double-sided adhesive on it, I'll just peel it back a little bit, dip that butterfly into the glitter, and then I can peel off the rest of the liner, hold it by the glitter while I get the rest of that butterfly down into the glitter. The Hanging Charm Pull Tab die is just a cute one. It has lots of choices. There's 4 choices of charms that come with it. The butterfly we're using today, there's an Eiffel Tower, a little to-go coffee cup, and then a heart. And those charms will work great on all sorts of projects, but they also work wonderfully in the opening. Just lots of ways you can use this die. It's very, very versatile. So that looks fantastic glittered, but I'm going to add just a little bit more decoration in the form of a glitter line. And I'm going to put that up the front of the butterfly. That's the way it's going to hang in the opening, but it is just hanging there on a piece of twine, so it's possible that it might get spun around to the backside. So I'm going to go ahead and put the glitter line up the backside as well, and that way it'll look pretty from either direction. So speaking of hanging from twine, I'm going to use baker's twine, but rather than 4-ply, I would like to have it just be 2-ply. So I'm going to take one of the black and one of the whites, spin it out of there, and use that instead. It'll be easier for me to thread just 2-ply through the little opening on my charm. This is way more twine than I'll need, but I like to do that just because then I can tie a knot in the top. I don't have to worry about it coming out of the charm after I've already threaded it through. And then later on, after I apply it, I'll just cut off the excess twine. Okay, let's get this thing assembled. It's such a quick and simple assembly. I'm going to flip this piece over, that's the card base, and I am going to use the 6mm Elizabeth Craft Designs double-sided adhesive tape. So you need a thin tape, so probably 1/4 of an inch at most, and it's going to go right along the edge of that card base. You have to make sure it goes right along the outside edge. You need a little space inside that tape for your little wings to slide up and down that card. So it's got to be the 6mm or thinner, and it's got to be out on the outside edge of the card base. The other piece that gets adhesive is the pull tab itself, and you want that adhesive right on the base of the pull tab, but not anywhere in the little protruding wings or tabs. If you're using the 6mm, you should have room to put 2. If you peel up the liner on the first one, it can overlap a little bit. You don't want to go any higher than the width of those tabs with your adhesive, but the whole little center section can have that adhesive. And then you're going to peel that up and make that sticky. So that's actually the top of that. If you have a texture to your cardstock, that's the pretty side of the pink. Now, attaching these pieces together, what happens is the end of the pull tab comes through the slot in the card base, and then you want to make sure it's good and centered before you put it in the adhesive. There's different ways to do that. Kind of doesn't really matter where you're looking, as long as you can see a spot where you can make sure that it's straight and it's centered. I'll look usually at the side of the slot itself and see if I see an equal amount of space on either side of the pink. And then I'm just going to press that card base down into the adhesive. So now those two are attached. When I pull the little tab, which right now it's not attached to a card yet, so it's going to be a little difficult to operate, but basically I'd pull that tab to make the mountain come up. There are a couple of little score lines, little tick marks in the center of that mountain, and if you go in there and pinch those, that'll give you that nice crisp mountain. And then you also want to find the little valley fold that the die has made at the base of the mountain. And now when you pull it, you can kind of get a sense of how that's going to come up like a little tent. The Hanging Charm pull tab die is basically a standalone die. It doesn't require to be built inside a card with a card fold. It has a pull tab to make it stand up. So you can really put it anywhere. Front of a card, inside of a card, doesn't really matter. You just peel up the liner on the tape and you put it onto wherever you want to put it. So in my case, I've got this black cardstock. It's a little bit wider and longer than the card base, so I just want to center it and get it pressed on there. Once the card base is attached, then it's really easy to pull it open. You can pinch all of the folds to train them. I'm going to use some Victorian Velvet Distress ink and a blending tool to just ink the edges of the patterned paper frame that's going to end up on the front of my pull tab. Now I'll peel up the liner on my black cardstock frame and lay it sticky side up on the table. And then I'm just going to hang my butterfly in the opening at whatever height I want it to be, and then press the twine into the exposed adhesive. And then I can use the rest of the adhesive to attach the pattern paper frame over the top. So what will happen is that twine ends up sandwiched between the two layers. And you'll see now that that butterfly just hangs in the opening. And then I can just take a pair of scissors and cut off the excess twine. To attach the frame, you're going to pull up the mountain so you can identify the front of the frame, because that's where you want the adhesive. And going back to that 6mm adhesive, it is actually the exact width of the sides of those skinny frames, so it works just perfectly for this application. And then you can also put a little line of it across the bottom just below the opening. Attaching the frame is just as simple as peeling up the liner on those 3 pieces of tape and then lining up the frame so that the opening in the frame matches the opening in the card base, and just pressing it to that exposed adhesive. So let's take a look at the operation of this card. It will lay flat, of course, for mailing, and then all you have to do is pull the tab. The frame raises, the little charm hangs in the opening. It's not the greatest camera angle right here, but hopefully you get the idea. I tied a small little ribbon bow, and I want to add that to my opening, so I'll add a little bit of adhesive just to the bottom part of the frame where the tails of the bow are going to hit it, and then I'll just press them to that exposed adhesive and let the main part of the bow kind of overhang the opening. And that way when I pull the tab, the bow will raise up as well. If you're mailing this card, it's probably a good idea to actually write the word pull on the end of the pull tab, just so that your recipient knows that they're supposed to pull it. But another idea is to use this little arrow die from the rectangle pull card set, just give someone a visual idea of what they're supposed to do. So I'm just going to center that and put that on the little pull tab. You'll see that it is visible in the closed position so that they know that there's something to pull. I'll use colored pencils to color in the up on the little greeting. A brand new product category for me are the new Stage It stencils. So these stencils are 5 by 7 on the outer dimension, and the pattern area is 4 3/8 by about 6 1/8. So they're going to be great for covering the fronts of cards, insides, backgrounds, things that you want to die cut. 6 different styles coordinate great with the collections. I'm using S002, the Flower Stage It stencil, and I'm back to my Victorian Velvet Distress ink and my blending tool. I'm using a pounce method with the ink, so I'm just pouncing the ink through the holes of the stencil while I hold it so it doesn't move. And I'm using just a little bit more pressure here, a little bit less pressure there. I actually wanted a varied look to the pattern. Now I can finish out the card by just adding some double-sided adhesive to the back of the black piece, peeling up the liner, centering it, and getting it onto my background piece. You have options with this card, of course. For this one, I'm just going to have the greeting be in the little hidden area. Just peel up the liner and inlay that into the opening. And I'm not actually having a top fold or side fold card in the background, but you certainly could. For this card, what I'll do is I'll flip it over to the white side and just write my personal greeting on the back. I'm afraid my camera angle is a little bit too steep for you to really get the full effect of that butterfly hanging in the opening. You'll have to look at the photographs for that, but it's just a pretty little card. And like I said, there's 3 other choices of the charm, so you'll find yourself reaching for this for all sorts of themes. Retailers, if you are coming to the CHA Mega Show January 9th through the 12th, 2016, I invite you to come by the Elizabeth Craft Designs booth, number 775, where we will be making this project one of the days as a make and take. If you come to our booth and make this project, I'll fix you up with some instructions and supply lists, make it super easy for you to reteach it. The dies will be in store January 2016. Thanks for watching.